And welcome to a new episode. We are streaming live, and I hope to have this up on the Game House YouTube as well, guys. I am actually watching myself on stream, which is very meta, but this is what you are coming here for. You all get to join me to kind of think about and talk about the weekend slate, which we are all very much sorry about that, very much wanting. That's why you're here. And hopefully we can get through this slate. This is a great slate for at least the day one from what I've seen already, and you get to follow my process along with that. But before we get there, I want to tell you, League DFS, this is a feature by the Game House, and tonight I actually have no guests, so I'll be spending a lot more time talking about DFS, talking about processes, some shower thoughts, because actually this topic really did come to me during a shower. I know that's not a picture you want from me, but bear with me here. We're gonna have a great time. I hope you guys get a chance to watch the Goldcast pod, which was released yesterday. We get to talk about betting odds. We get to talk about some of the upsets. I put some of my picks in there. Things may shift a little bit because I get to think about it overnight, but I don't expect too many changes to happen. Now, going in, we have to review what happened last week, and we're going to look forward to what's going on in the upcoming weekend. And again, this show is focused on the European League. This show is focused on the North American League. Last week was short of interesting, or that's not even English, but short of being a crazy weekend. Some substitution happened. We get to see Misfits for the first time with their new roster. We got to see Fnatic trying to experiment and fail miserably in that. And we also definitely get to see the LCS where craziness happened. Teams that are supposed to win, lose, supposed to win, supposed to lose, win. And that is typical of NA. And so I really haven't, found any consistency yet with them. But not gonna tilt too much about it. We can prepare for it. That's the lesson I learned. So the stats are updated, as you can see here on my cheat sheet. I hope to have this up on the Game House website soon. We'll tinker with that, probably starting at Worlds. At this time, I don't see me being able to get everything over before the end of the summer split. But as for now, if you want to look for the link, it is in my Twitter bio or in the show description, which you will find later on as I upload this for later viewing. I have the chat open. If you are in here, you want to join the chat, feel free. And let's dive into it, guys. So, LEC. So, looking back from last week, I had a couple of good calls, I think, particularly with the contrarian stack. I got nailed down Rogue over Fnatic because the Fnatic was experimenting with their lineups, which before the salary was released, they didn't know about it, and yet DK did manage to enter Magic Felix into the player pool, and as well as the remaining Misfit team, which were not in the original pool. See, DraftKings can do a lot of stuff, okay? They just tell you these reasons why they couldn't. They haven't done it, presidents, but now they're setting new ways of just hopefully making the product better. But it's very tilting because it doesn't give you a sense of consistency of what they are and are not allowed to do. With that said, let's thank them for just being up to speed after our complaining about the rosters not being in the pool. It's still lacking a little bit, and you can see that tonight if you are playing the Academy slate. None of the top laners from C9, CLG, or Fox were even in the pool, so that continues to be a need for improvement. At least they're willing to improve, so I will give them that. Heading on, let's talk a little bit about DFS lineup building and talk a little bit about the weekend slate. So the shower thought that I talked about, it's more to do with processes, and of course I focus a lot more on the cash game aspect, particularly on the weekend slate, because the pools are wider. There's a best of one. You have a little bit more variance, and you don't get a lot of people jumping onto the same thing. Now, does that mean there's no predictability? No. Over time, over years that I've been playing this game, I've noticed trends. I've sort of picked up on how to guess the best guess what the chalk is, best guess where ownership go. The error that I kept making, and I've slowly adjusted to it this year, is that DraftKings has actually done I thought a very good job, meaning more challenging. It makes it more challenging now to think about salaries, think about values, think about teams. Whereas before it was very much easy. Boom, I see this team costs this much, so the rest of the player will follow suit in their tiering. You still have some of that, but what my mistake was thinking, oh, I'm gonna want to play the most expensive favorite, but can't stack it with another projected favorite, right? That you couldn't do with the past salary system. In the current salary system, it is possible, and I've seen people do it, and I came in a little slower around that because I didn't experiment. I just went with what I knew. But now, if you have that potential, you couldn't see a team that could likely pull off an upset. And I will tell you, an upset does happen every week. Not every slate. It is more uncommon that all the favorite wins. It is just more challenging to figure out which of the upsets that happens. But I digress. In cash games, you want to pick the teams that will win, and if they're both favorites, it is now possible with the salary opening up a little bit more to stack two favorites, and then you will see a little bit of a difference between player salary and the team salary right now. I think DraftKings has finally caught up that they adjust their algorithm according to ownership. So don't be dissuaded just to go look to the team and assume that the tiering is going to be the same for the rest of the players. Certain players are more popular and they'll make them more expensive. Certain players are less popular and they'll make them very cheap. And this is where you can find the edge here, is that you know that this player says, yes, he's going to be on a winning team, but he's overly expensive. I don't want him. Or a player that is typically underowned throughout all slates. DraftKings doesn't really adjust for matchups that well, right? So you consistently, in the early portion of the summer split, you see Schalke's player being priced very low, even as an underdog, and very low, even though I think that they could win that game. And I had so much success playing Trick, playing, Ignar. Now there's an overcorrection. Schalke seems to be up there. I'm sure their scoring kind of justify why they're expensive, but at the same time, I think you can still exploit it. You'll hopefully find something this weekend. Maybe I'll give a good example of what I'm talking about. So bottom line is, for cash games, just stack the favorites. You don't need to get cute. What tends to happen is you'll find players who are running a single lineup, and they're building with a GPP mindset, a tournament mindset, and they'll just throw it in the double ups and those single entry double ups. And hey, maybe they are finding success in the tournaments and whatnot, but it might not be the most optimal lineup. They're just trying to be different because they know they have to challenge for the top spot in those tournaments, but they play that same lineup in a double up. Theoretically speaking, if you hit on your tournaments, you should hit on the double ups, and that's one way to play League of Legends DFS. But for me, I always come from the cash perspective. I always start off with the double up in mind. What are the most likely outcome? Who are the most likely to give me a high score game? Those lineups could be popular, but they make sense, and everything points to that lineup, that chalky lineup, makes sense. I will enter it into double ups, and then I will throw it in a tournament, pretty much what you would do in a typical DFS sport. And then I start building my tournament. What are the variations I can make of this lineup? What are the less likely combo that people are going to try? What are the upsets that can happen? Those I put in a tournament rather than having a tournament lineup throw into a GPP. So this is why there's still an edge to just play sort of safe going into double ups, because you'll have people clogging up those spots with their GPP lineup. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, more so the early entries, rather than I'm sorry, the other way around. The late entries are typically, you'll see more GPP because people are spam entering all the tournaments trying to fill the contest, and they only have this one lineup. They're not going to stress about making a differentiating between a cash lineup and a GPP lineup. So for me, I think that's why it makes sense for me to play double up, so it gives double up advice in those weekend slates. Now, in the 2-game slates, 4-game slates, those smaller slates, definitely would not just think about throwing the chalk in and not do anything about it. All right, so that's kind of the thoughts here as far as what I'm thinking, how I'm viewing things. Hopefully we can find an example happening here. So this weekend, let's start off with the games, or I'm sorry, let's review the games from last week. Vitality upset, right? They upset it, I believe it was Schalke. And so this team is still a little hard to figure out. I think they will beat all the mid-tier and lower-tier teams, but they cannot touch. They will not be able to beat Splice. They will not be able to beat Fnatic. They will not be able to beat G2. And I'm thinking they're probably on the same level as Origin and Schalke. The other team, Rogue, found maybe success against a backup, a thrown together Fnatic weird experimentation team. But as you can tell, they're still a very bottom team on the next game that they played last week. They follow up by losing to Misfits. Misfits is headed into a good direction, I think. I don't know how many more games that'll win. Certainly this week they might go 1-1 because they'll face Fnatic and they'll face Excel. But they've shown sort of this new blood, new excitement that you'll get. And so this team, it bears watching and maybe even throwing into some of the contests when they get a closer or more favorable matchup. But on the whole, they're still very much a inexperienced young team that will likely lose to most teams. And I wouldn't put it past them to even lose to Rogue or XL or SK. With that said, I'm excited for what's happening next year. It's been confirmed that Gorilla and Soaz will be leaving Misfits, so you can lock in Dan, you can lock in Hiva. Most likely you can lock in Kirei and Leader. It's the Hansama spot that I'm still unsure where Misfit is thinking. Sprots. With that said, things are coming into focus. G2, Fnatic, and Splice are the top 3 team. You'll want to play them. I'm gonna have them listed as my chalk plays. And tonight I'll also be able to talk a little bit about some of the what I noticed in terms of their statistics. Something that I've gathered on my time that I have off. But we're going to kind of sort of let them guide. We are more than halfway through the seasons for LEC. They certainly have way more games to play than do the LCS, but we have some good information. We have sort of get a good sense of which teams are good and which teams are not as good. So looking into this week's salary breakdown, we'll go with day 1 of the LEC. Here we have, I'm sorry, it's loading a little bit slow for me, the internet. Okay, so Fnatic and Schalke are kind of priced at the top for this weekend. Fnatic I can get. They'll be facing against this Misfit team, and deservedly so, they should be higher priced. Schalke being higher priced than Rogue or G2 is strange to me. Maybe they're giving way more, or DraftKings is giving way more respect to Origin, but as you can see from these betting odds, is just basically all G2, and yet G2 is underpriced. So whatever you do, you start your stack with G2. I don't know if you want to start with the value guys like Wunder and who else, Caps, which is very strange to see Caps as a very underpriced mid laner. Or you go for the more expensive Yankos and Perks, each in their respective position. They are far more expensive than Caps and Wunder are relative to their position. Mickey X I'll always play in my cash, whether he's in the captain spot, whether he's in the regular spot. He is as safe as it comes, and I don't think Origin are able to slow down G2. While they lollygag around, that is the risk that you'll always take, but everyone will be on G2. The way that this is priced, there is just no way that they'll be under 30% owned for every one of them. And from the looks of it, Mickey X will be the most popular, followed by Caps, and then Perks. Then we have Fnatic. I think that they'll have an easy time against Misfit. I might be wrong because Misfit has traditionally played them well, but that is the older Misfit. That is the team with Hansama, the team with who else? Mickey X, the team with who are those? Max Lore and Alfari, those kind of guys, I think, of the older Misfits. So this is a very young Misfits team. As long as, and this is a caveat, you have to watch out for the news. As long as Fnatic is not trying things again, I think it's as safe as it comes to just play your Fnatic stack. They're a tiny bit more expensive than the G2 stack. So this will give you some differentiation, whereas most people will go for the G2 and just throw it into everything. You can go the the Fnatic route and expect maybe a 20 to 30% kind of ownership, with Reckless being a very good value. Yep, very, very good value for Reckless and Hylissang. And maybe even decide to mix it up. You have Caps, Reckless, Hylissang, Wunder, and you just fill in the rest. It's going to be a bit cost prohibitive, but it is a way to build a lineup as well. You feel safe, and you'll differentiate yourself from the field, from those who are chasing the clean stack. By clean, meaning a 4-3 stack or a 3-4 stack. 3-player, 4-player stack, 4-player, 3-player stack. That's what I mean by 3-4-4-3. Then we have... I don't understand. Okay, I'm gonna make a change here. I think due to the price of Fnatic, it's likely we'll see a Spice being way more popular, and deservedly so. And they'll go against Vitality, a very high-paced type of team, and a team that I don't see beating Spice. So for the time being, these three teams are probably going to be in all your build. You're going to start with one of these three teams, and as far as you can, maybe even two of these three teams in your stack, but I doubt that it's going to come out as clean as I want. Let me play around with that. So I'm gonna start with a sort of a Splice Fnatic stack. So far I have Vizichachi, Broxa Humanoid, and then I fill in the cheapest of the three, which so happens to be neither it is Fnatic, with Reckless. And then let's say I go for this cheap. Oh my gosh, sometimes I do consider Splice team itself as a better play due to their salary, better play than Norse Karen or Vizichachi. Points per dollar, the Splice team can match those players, and you get a way cheaper value on them. So that leaves you with 8,000 for the captain spot and the support spot, which doesn't seem to be a lot. Let's see what happens if I look. Now support is kind of cheap here. If I throw in let's say this guy, for example, that leaves me with 10,600 to play, and there's definitely oh my gosh, definitely a good stack you can build from that. And there you go. Fnatic Splice is a good stack. But there you go. that could potentially be my cash. I'm gonna experiment to see if I can get G2 Splice in there, but this is an easy build for cash. And so let's talk a little bit about tournament play, tournament slant for this. I think Rogue could be a good value, but I think XL has a very good chance of beating them. So then now I have the option of playing some I'll list them as contrarian. I'm not entirely sold yet that XL can outright beat Rogue, but it's definitely closer to a coin flip game, which we don't see in the odds. The odds has Rogue as a heavy favorite. I don't agree with that at all. And so this is how I sort of formulate who might be the potential upsets, who might be the low own upsets. Nobody wants to touch XL based on the way they've played so far, based on the way they just got roughed, and more likely you'll find more people wanting to be on the Rogue side, and Rogue with Splice, Rogue with Fnatic, Rogue with G2. Those will be all over the type of GPP build that you can make, and they're all viable. But in this case, if I can get a XL stack, and well, I'll have to pin my ear to the ground to see how how popular this call might become. If it's not popular at all, then I would go for it. I would throw it into a I will throw that into a large field, like a 25 cent, the $3, the $8, whichever has like a deep participant roster, and I can build any way I want. And this way I can get 2 mids and an ADC, or 2 ADC and a mid, just whatever I can do, because the salary will be super loose if you decide to go the XL route. So we have Jeskla here and Mystique. Yeah, 2 bottom teams as always open doors for potential high scoring game, crazy fiesta games, because the sheer fact that both teams are trying to do crazy stuff. Now, other GPP viable plays we have here are SK Gaming. Yeah, I think they have a good chance. It's a low chance, but I'm not gonna play a lot of Schalke. They're very expensive. There's no need to go there. You know that G2 and Fnatic has a higher scoring potential. Even Splice has a higher scoring potential. But if there's an upset in the making, this is another game that I can see that can be an upset. Now, Selfmade, typically they play around him when they win, but I have not observed that recently. But they also haven't win a lot of game recently. So Papirian is probably a guy that I can leave out, because he doesn't really score a lot when they win. And Dreams is also one that I can see leaving out altogether. Now, I'm tempted to put Misfit in here, but I don't think I need to get too cute based on the salaries that we've seen so far. So that's what we have for LEC. Hopefully that helps. And then whatever happens in day 1, there's a good solid chance that the opposite happens in day 2 for 2 games or 3 of the games. And this is where you get the ownership edge. Just listen to what others are suggesting, and then see how much overlap there are, and then, you know, throw in a contrarian stack for day 2, something that nobody keeps in mind. So let's say people are like, oh, Splice is locked in to win, Schalke stands no chance on day 2. Well, this is a prime opportunity to say maybe Schalke does have a chance. It has more of a chance than, you know, Vitality does, I think. Or that if XL won in day 1, I can potentially see them being more popular in day 2, as we figure out that Misfit will have a terrible score against Fanatics and will be going into day 2. I don't know. So these are all just scenarios I play in my mind. things might not happen the way I have it in my mind, and it's good to just change my hypotheses as things come. Okay, let's talk about the better region that everyone likes, North America region. We have last week a couple of interesting games, particularly with C9, who right now is very highly confusing. They did bring back Licorice, and they look much better, but I don't know how they lost to CLG. Okay, so maybe CLG, I'm not giving CLG enough credit for being a top 3 team, but now clearly they're making a case for themselves by beating C9 and beating them handily. They did control the game from top to bottom. The other team that I want to talk about is TSM, who is on a slump, will continue to be viewed as going in a slump. Now, nobody's going to pick Echo Fox over TSM, but there's a potential, even myself having come to thought of, maybe 100 Thieves is on the right track. Maybe 100 Thieves will be TSM. This could formulate a too early of a bias for myself. I am aware of that. But it is something that I am thinking, highly considering for day 2. To have, hey, TSM can lose to anybody. They may have stability with Acadian, but it didn't seem like that really brought them much confidence or stability as I thought they would. So TSM is an interesting team to watch out for. I think they're in a slump that they need to figure out how to get out of. They'll probably make playoffs, but their 3rd seed is not as locked as we want it to be. Golden Guardians is another team that is crazy right now with their new bot lane. And since Deathly was traded after they made the switch, it can pretty much be assumed that FBI and Huhi will be with the remainder of Golden Guardians, and that really took the team a huge step backward. Not through the fault of the bot line, or at least not through the fault of Huhi. Huhi played well, but in all games, Golden Guardians related, they're giving up kills. Even when Golden Guardian wins, they still give up kills. 100 Thieves might play it slow, might slow down the game a little bit more, but I think that the Golden Guardians, if 100 Thief wins, it'll give Golden Guard. If 100 Thief wins, they'll score well. So that might put them in a category of high GPP consideration. And looking at the salary right now, 100 Thieves is actually considered a underdog and could even be a major underdog, as I see Fake God being the cheapest. Amazing, not so much. Okay, so maybe not for other positions, but like I said, DraftKings has done a good job with the salaries. So you'll see Amazing, Ryu, Bang, even Afro, I think, yeah, being priced near Golden Guardians because they see this as a coin flip game, but Fake God being the cheapest. Might open up salary. I don't know if I want to play Fake God because he has not done well even in his wins. But if you want to go forward, sorry, I'll just include him in there. But any stack you made with 100 Thieves has to start with Amazing. He's the right leader of this team, and Bang, Ryu were all viable plays, as is Afro Moon when he does not die a lot. But the main guy you want is Amazing. Now, I also see that C9 is the most expensive price in the slate. So do you know what that means? That means TL is not. And that's an automatic, well, near automatic cash game start for me. There is just, I just don't see myself not playing Team Liquid. They are playing at a very high level right now. Being not as the most expensive team also gives you that ability to be more flexible, and I would try to play 4 Team Liquid player in my cash lineup as much as I can, whether it's Core Impact or Core JJ or Xmethy. Now, Xmethy did disappoint last week. He had one of the lowest kills, even though Team Liquid scored a 20 kill game. Xmethy was very much not part of that. Very low stat, cost me a couple of spots in the game. even knocked me out of double ups because of his performance. This will give you a great reason to come back to him in GPP with your stack of Xmithy and whoever else you want, because those recent performances does enter people's biases, does make people feel a certain way about a player, and they would rather go Impact or they rather go Core JJ in that manner. Now C9 against Fly, I am unsure if I would think that it's a safe DFS bet. I think C9 will win handily, but FlyQuest has been inconsistent in the way that they give up kills, give up stats. So I will put the C9 in a GPP or a GPP or a tournament category, based on the fact that they're too expensive for now, and that they might not even be in a high scoring affair type of game. But you know, C9 is C9. They'll always have a chance of just steamrolling their opponent, playing at a pace, flexing their muscle, come back angry from their last week's loss. So it's a high GPP consideration. You might go C9 100 Thieves. That's a great combo right there. Niski and then Sneaky. But we'll have to say that the bot lane for C9 is their major weakness right now. Azazel is fine. He scores well, 20 points, 30 points on the occasion. Sneaky is the one I'm worried about because he's expensive and not performing up to par against all the other potential ADCs that I could have played instead of Sneaky. Okay. So other teams that we can look to play, not too big of a fan of TSM. They have Sven priced really high. They have Bjergsen priced really high, and I think those are mainly based off of ownership percentages rather than their output. Now, granted, it is Echo Fox. Echo Fox, when they lose ugly, and gives team a lot of points. So in that sense, I would rather go Broken Blade. I would rather go Acadian. Smoothie is iffy. He's really low scoring for even in games that he wins. CLG against Clutch. Now that is another game that I will probably be on. Noting that CLG is priced very, very fair and very much down there. So, and lately they haven't been really in a high scoring affair kind of game. They even limited kills for C9, but Clutch is a bad team. Sorry, Zachary, but CLG can take advantage of Clutch's mistakes, particularly with DeMonte, who either shows great signs of brilliance or just flat out loses to the opponent and ints in the process. So I do think CLG is safe-ish for cash, and I believe you can go Team Liquid CLG and have that combo. So potential for contrarian upsets. This is tough. I don't really see too many potentials. The one that I might look to, because CLG is riding high, emotional win against C9, thinking they have once again conquered the world. Winning against TSM was big for them because they broke a losing streak. But letdown game, this is counter logic. This is quite possible, so I'm going there. You can play Clutch Gaming as your contrarian stack and see them beat up on CLG and do it in a way that makes us question everything that we understand and saw from last week. Monte Cody-san, and you know, believe it or not, Clutch Gaming was actually a very good team in the first half of the summer, but I did sense that they have a weakness for that. And of course, I'll throw in another potential tournament plays. It's the Guardians. I mean, Honestly, this team has the potential to score high even in losses, score high in their wins. Can they beat 100 Thieves? I think so. And so it's not a bad idea, because people have a bad taste of Golden Guardians in their mouth, and that's the last thing that they remember about Golden Guardians. So this gives you a way less ownership. Sorry, way less ownership on them. And you play them, and you'll be differentiating yourself from the field. All right. So now you've understand my process. You've seen my cheat sheet and how to sort of understand how I start building stuff, whether some of the thoughts that runs through my mind. Any questions you have, hit me up on Twitter. You can find my Twitter there. I want to give a special shout out to the person who gave me this great new layout. He is actually the esports plug John George's brother, and he does this for a living. So if you ever need a graphics person, someone who can you can ask and tell him how you want it customized, just hit him up. His name is at Toby_George3, and I'll put that in the description. Thank you, Toby. This is an amazing overlay, and I hope to get you more work so I can make this look better, look more professional. Guys, I also soon will have a better backdrop, so you won't be staring at this floral design and this very unprofessional looking background. But that's it for me tonight. I'm signing off. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Hope you learned something. Visit our website at the Game House. We have a lot of content coming out, power rankings of these teams. We also have teamfight tactics articles, and those are amazing, man. I'm learning so much. I'm a little bit more addicted to that right now. So with that said, I am signing off. Thank you all. Thank you for joining me.